I, female 23, was asked to sit for a date night while the parents went to a wedding yesterday. I was supposed to have a baby boy, 13 weeks old, and his sister, 2 years old, from 5 to 11 p.m. This is not my first time watching either child. Our evening went as smoothly as it could with a toddler and baby. I got them to bed by 7:30 and started putting the house back together. At 10:15 p.m., I got a text from the parents asking if I could stay until 12 a.m., and I told them that's fine and to have fun. 12:15 rolls around, and I haven't heard from the parents. I sent a text asking if they're close and didn't get a response. I can be pretty anxious, so my mind started thinking they got into an accident or something bad happened. I didn't hear from them after 5 minutes and then decided to call, but got no answer. 1 a.m. rolls around, and the baby has already woken up to feed again, and I'm just overly anxious at this point. It's 1 a.m., and I have no one to call me down. I would never assume that a late parent is just a late parent at 1 a.m., so I am just on our city's Twitter page, where they'll let you know road conditions and accidents, seeing if something happened within the last hour and a half, but nothing. 2 a.m. rolls around, and I kid you not, I have called around 15 times and received no answer from either parent. I wanted to call the police at that point, but also didn't want the kids woken up and taken out of the house at 2 a.m. I was hoping that the parents would walk in, and although I'd be angry, at least they're fine. But again, that didn't happen. At 5 a.m., I decided to call the police and report the parents missing, and I told them I couldn't keep them after having them all night. The police showed up at 5:22 a.m. and took a statement from me. I was asked for the parents' numbers, and the police asked if I could stay with the kids until they could figure out what exactly they're going to do. At this point, the neighbors are outside, and the woman directly next door told me she could stay with them. But I didn't know their relationship to her, so I told her I'd wait with the kids for a bit. At freaking 5:48 a.m., they roll up and are greeted by the police. The mom ran into the house thinking something had happened to the kids and sighed when she saw they were there. Our phones died, and we didn't know how to get home from the venue, is what she said to me, and I was fuming. I called them irresponsible and the shittiest parents I've ever worked for. I demanded she pay me on the spot, and I left. I got a super long message about how this is my job, and I'm a huge jerk for disrespecting them and calling the police. She felt like I could have left them with the neighbors or called the emergency contacts, not the police. Am I the idiot? Edit, I meant 12 a.m. and not 12 p.m. I was only supposed to stay an extra hour. Emergency contacts are mom's parents who are a 6-hour plane ride away, their pediatrician's office, and 911. I felt like 911 would be the best in this case. The wedding was a friend of the dad, so I just don't see how they'd be able to contact anyone there. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. That story does not add up in the slightest. Okay, let's be generous and say both their phones died. Did nobody at the venue have a charger? Was there no gas station around that sold one? Would nobody lend them a phone to call and check on their kids and babysitter? Way too many things had to happen to lead up to 6 a.m. without contact. Absolutely not the idiot, and you were more patient than I would have been. I might give them an hour or so, but after that, with no response or explanation, I am going to assume something is wrong and be contacting emergency personnel. Comment 2. Not the idiot. You actually did the right and safest thing. Also, it's 2024. Who in this day and age doesn't have either a portable charger or a car phone charger? They are parents. They should have been prepared for their phone dying. Also, they got lost for that long? No idiots here. Something fishy there, in my opinion. Wipe your hands of them. You didn't do anything wrong. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around for more of my saga. So after that whole mess with the parents coming home late, you'd think things would calm down, right? Wrong. A couple of days later, I'm at the grocery store minding my own business when who do I see? The mom from the other night. She's there with her kids, and she spots me. I try to avoid her, but she comes right up to me, all smiles like nothing happened. She starts apologizing, saying she was out of line and that she understands why I did what I did. I'm skeptical, but she seems sincere. She even hands me an envelope with extra cash as an apology. I'm thinking maybe this is over, but boy, was I wrong. Later that day, I get a call from a friend who works at the local daycare. She tells me that the mom has been spreading rumors about me, saying I'm an unreliable sitter and that I overreacted that night. My friend knows me, so she didn't believe it. But it's a small town, and word gets around fast. I'm starting to lose babysitting gigs because of her. I'm fuming, but I decide to confront her. I go to her house and we have it out right there on her front lawn. Neighbors are watching, and it's a whole scene. I tell her that her lies are costing me my reputation and my income. She just shrugs and says it's my fault for involving the police. I'm so angry I can barely see straight. But I know I need to be smart about this. I go home and start gathering evidence. I have the text messages from that night, the extra cash she gave me at the grocery store, and I even have a recording of her apology because I had a feeling I might need it. I take everything to a family friend who's a lawyer, and he agrees to help me send her a cease and desist letter. It's not much, but it's a start. The next day I get a call from the dad. He's furious about the letter and threatens to sue me for defamation. I can't believe it. I'm the one being defamed, and now they want to sue me. The lawyer says not to worry, that they don't have a leg to stand on, but it's still stressful. Just when I think things can't get any worse, I get a call from the police. They tell me that the parents have been under investigation for a while now for other issues, and my call that night helped them build their case. They ask me to testify if it goes to court. I agree, but I'm nervous about the whole thing. The aftermath is pretty up and down. The parents end up getting charged with neglect and a few other things. The kids are taken by Child Protective Services, and the whole town is talking about it. I feel bad for the kids, but at least they're safe now. In the end, I cut off all contact with the parents. I block their numbers, their social media, everything. I can't have people like that in my life. It's been a rough few days, but I'm starting to pick up more babysitting jobs again, and my reputation is slowly being repaired. Thanks for reading. My dad ignored my pain and chose his new wife's daughter over me. So I bonded with Grandpa and showed him what real family looks like. After my dad married Jane 7 years ago, he started to get really involved in her daughter Amy's life. I, a 15-year-old female, felt left out. My life had been really difficult up to then, and I was struggling with everything. I had lost my mom 2 years before, and I also suffered a brain injury. I was grieving the loss of a lot of memories of my mom. I was recovering, and my dad was distracted with Jane. It was tough, but then my dad got along with Amy so much better, and he always seemed more into the time he spent with her than the time he spent with me. He also shared more of his own interests with her. He took her to special places he adored that he never took me to, and I wanted to go. He shared with her stuff he didn't share with me. I was jealous and I was hurt. I tried to explain to my dad, but he told me it was selfish to want to keep him to myself and to leave Amy without a dad. He said her dad didn't want to know her, so he needed to fill that role for her. Amy would tell me to just accept that dad liked her better, and he was her dad more than mine now. My dad knew about it and didn't care. He did spend time with me, but it was stuff I liked, and he'd act like it was the biggest burden to spend time with me. He fell asleep a few times, and he would zone out a lot and leave me to do things alone, even though he was physically there. My grandpa, my dad's dad, noticed, and he started spending more time with me and creating a bond with me that we didn't have before. My dad isn't that close to his dad, but Grandpa has been the best. He even loved my mom, and he told me how sad it made him when my parents divorced. He told me stories about her and me that I don't remember anymore. It has been amazing, and apparently it has healed a lot of the pain from my dad's lack of interest, because my dad noticed, and he got so jealous. He confronted me a few days ago, saying I was ignoring him and spending way too much time with Grandpa. He asked me why I stopped asking about our time together. I clearly told him that he prefers spending time with Amy and can't stand time with me. So I'm spending time with someone who enjoys me. He told me I don't have the right to rub my favoritism of Grandpa in his face. I called him a hypocrite and told him he treated Amy better than me for years. He showed favoritism to her, opened up to her, and shared with her in a way he never did with me. And it wasn't okay. I told him he then called me selfish for telling him how it made me feel. I told him she knows him better than I do, and it's not my fault. I said he allowed that to happen and allowed her to feel so smug about it. He walked away from the conversation. Dad decided we need family therapy yesterday. He came out with it out of nowhere. He said it's the only way to fix it. I told him family therapy won't fix us when he can't even stay and have a conversation with me. He told me I used to be willing to try, and now I'm not, and it's not okay. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'm going to second your dad's recommendation of therapy and further suggest you have time with the therapist, just you and them. I agree with you that unless your dad is open to realizing his mistakes and honestly try to make amends, it won't change. But having a therapist to speak with can be beneficial in other aspects of your life. And having your dad foot the bill is an added bonus. To be clear, not the idiot. Comment 2, not the idiot. I tried to explain to my dad, but he told me it was selfish to want to keep him to myself and to leave Amy without a dad, and how her dad didn't want to know her, so he needed to fill that role for her. Tell him you accepted that compromise a long time ago. Amy needed a dad, so she took yours. Then you needed a dad, so you took his. Fair is fair. Now for the update, thanks for sticking around. A lot has happened since I last wrote. So after Dad dropped the family therapy bomb, things got even more heated. He booked an appointment without asking me, and when I found out, I was fuming. I mean, he never asked what I wanted. It was always about what he thought was best. I didn't go to the first session. He and Jane went, and apparently they spent the whole time talking about how I was the problem. Classic, right? Then Grandpa got sick. It was sudden and serious. I was scared and spent every moment I could at the hospital. Dad was there too, but it was like we were strangers, just sharing a space. Grandpa got better, thank God. But that scare changed something in me. I was done being the victim in my own life. I decided to confront Amy. I told her I knew she was enjoying the favoritism and that it was time she knew how much it hurt me. She actually broke down and confessed. She felt guilty for taking Dad away from me, but she was scared of being alone again. Her own dad had left her, and she clung to mine. I couldn't believe it. We both cried, and it was like years of tension just melted away. We agreed to try and be sisters for real this time. Dad heard about our talk from Jane, and suddenly he wanted to make things right. He apologized for the therapy mess and asked if we could start over. I was cautious but agreed. We started doing things together, just us, and it was awkward at first, but it got better. But then the past came knocking in a way none of us expected. Amy's dad showed up. He wanted to reconnect with her after all these years. It was like a soap opera, I swear. Amy was torn, Dad was furious, and I was just there. It was a mess. Amy decided to meet him and Dad blamed me, said I had stirred up the past with our heart-to-heart. I was at my wit's end. I needed to do something big, something to shake up the whole situation. So I did the one thing Dad would never expect. I reached out to Amy's dad. I met him, talked to him, and I actually convinced him to talk to Dad first, to clear the air. It was a long shot, but it worked. They talked, and it was rough, but they came to an understanding. Amy's dad wasn't trying to replace mine. He just wanted a chance to be part of her life. After that, Dad sat me down. He said he was sorry for not seeing how much he had hurt me. He admitted he was scared of losing Amy, like he lost Mom, and that he went about it all wrong. We both cried, and it felt like a weight had been lifted. We're not perfect, but we're trying, and that's more than I could have hoped for a week ago. Thanks for reading. My husband buys jewelry after a fight about spicy food. So I plan the ultimate surprise getaway to teach him about communication and togetherness. I am a 28-year-old female and have been with my 28-year-old husband for 9 years, married for 2 this summer. We have a 7-year-old daughter. We rarely fight, but this small issue has turned into the biggest argument we have ever had. So the problem is that both my daughter and I love spicy food. Ever since I felt comfortable with her trying it, she has loved it too. Our tolerance for spice is high, but not extreme. However, my husband hates it. He thinks spice is unnecessary and only likes to use salt and pepper. This is not a problem, as sometimes I make a batch that suits his taste. Another one for me and our daughter. Sometimes my daughter and I will just eat it how it is to his liking, as too little spice is easier to handle than too much for him. Now this Saturday, my husband was away with friends to pick up some car parts. It was a 12-hour drive in total and they left at about 9. I ordered from an Indian place that is our daughter's favorite. My husband also likes this place and usually orders something mild. Since my husband was not home, I did not order anything for him, assuming that they would have eaten on the road. When he got home, he greeted us and then immediately went to the fridge and saw some leftover food. When he opened them, he obviously realized that he could not eat any of them. We argued for about 5 minutes. The consensus of the argument was him saying that I should have either thought about him and ordered something, or I should have asked him if he had eaten or wanted anything. I argued that I would have probably done so if he was only away for a few hours. But he was away for over 12 hours and came home about 4 hours after we usually eat, so I assumed he had eaten. Now he has barely talked. He cooked his dinner for himself because, in his words, I can't be bothered. He texted me from the living room when I was cooking for me and our daughter, saying that he hoped I was happy to have my food my way now. He is extremely weird about this. He has never acted this way about something like this before, and I am getting even more confused by it all. Edit. Hi, and thanks for all your comments and everyone's judgment. To clarify, my husband did not cheat. He was with his friend picking up car parts. He does not have a girlfriend or feel guilty about something that happened on the trip. We talked this morning, and he told me that he just felt forgotten about. After he ate, he was too ashamed to say he was sorry for starting an argument about this. I also apologized for not even texting him and told him I was sorry for hurting him, and also continuing the argument without considering his feelings. Everything is great, and from now on, we will just try to better our communication. Thanks again for the help. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. It was reasonable to think he would have eaten already, especially with it being 4 hours past dinner time. He also could have called on the way back and said something about not having eaten yet. Had he done that, you likely would have made sure something was available. There is nothing wrong with treating yourself and your daughter to a favorite food while he is away. Comment 2. What happened on the road trip? Did he really go for car parts? Do you know his friends that he went with? Sounds like something else upset him and he's taking it out on you. Hopefully nothing serious or relationship ending, but if he's away that long, it's reasonable that he would have gotten food or at least messaged to ask you. Now for the update, thanks for tuning in. So after that whole spicy food mess, things got even weirder. My husband started doing his own grocery shopping, separate from what I'd buy for me and our daughter. It was like he was building a wall, one can of bland soup at a time. I tried to talk to him about it, but he just shrugged and say he was making sure he had food he liked. Then out of nowhere, he announced he was going on a business trip. He's never had to travel for work before, so it caught me off guard. He packed a small suitcase and left without much of an explanation. I was left with our daughter, trying to figure out what was going on. Meanwhile, my daughter's been asking about her dad every day. She doesn't understand why he's acting so distant. I've been trying to keep things normal for her, but it's tough. We've been sticking to our routine, but there's this big dad-shaped hole in everything we do. A few days into his trip, I got a call from my sister. She said she saw my husband in town, which made no sense. He was supposed to be out of state. I confronted him over the phone and he got defensive, saying his trip got cut short and he was just grabbing some food before heading home. When he finally came back, things were tense. We barely spoke, and when we did, it was just small talk. It felt like we were strangers living in the same house. I was worried about what all this was doing to our daughter. She's a smart kid and picks up on everything. Then, yesterday, I found a receipt in his jacket for a jewelry store. It was for a bracelet, the kind you definitely not buy for yourself. My mind was racing. Was he seeing someone else? I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I decided to confront him. I waited until our daughter was at a friend's house and laid the receipt out on the table. He walked in, saw it, and his face went white. He sat down and told me it was for me, a surprise to make up for the argument and everything that had happened since. I didn't know what to think. I was relieved, angry, and confused all at once. We talked for hours about the food argument, the trip, the distance between us. It turned out he felt like I didn't need him anymore, that me and our daughter were in our own little world of spicy food and he was just on the outside. We both cried a bit, and it felt like we finally broke through some wall that had been building up. We agreed to start fresh, to communicate better, and to make sure we're all feeling included in our family. So things are looking up. We're planning a weekend getaway, just the three of us, to reconnect. It's been a rough week, but I'm hopeful we're on the right track now. Thanks for sticking with me through this. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.